Okay, so who do we think is getting into TOKON now, right? We finally know where Star-Lord and Miss Marvel end up on the roster, right? They ended up with Spider-Man, so that sort of makes things a little clear, right? As to what they might be going for. And a lot of the patterns people have been thinking about is, if you look at Team X-Men, 3 X-Men, and then a 4th X-Men that's like kind of like the oddball character, right? You have 3 characters of Spider-Man relation, right? Spider-Man, Kamala, and Penny, and then the sort of like the oddball character, but that still technically fits, right? That still technically fits. And so if you follow that statement, what are teams Avengers, Dooms, and Midnight Suns, right? Like what are these teams gonna be? Captain America's team, Doom's team, and Ghost Rider's team. What is that gonna look like, right? What can that look like? Obviously, right? Everybody assumes, no matter who you are, everybody kind of knows Cap is leading the Avengers, and since Stark is there, Tony exists, right? Tony is gonna be on the Avengers. So once again, it's a team where we know some of the roster, but at the same time we don't know what these last 2 are, right? For Spider-Man's team, we knew 2 characters, we didn't know Penny was there. So this is the same case, but now we actually get 2 reveals for this upcoming trailer, right? And I do think, mind you, that this is the order they're going to reveal it in. It's going to be Cap's trailer next, it's going to be Doom's trailer after that, and then the final one before the game launches is gonna be the Midnight Suns, the Ghost Riders team. I do think that's what's gonna happen. So who do we think is showing up on the Avengers team, right? Like who's showing up? There's quite a bit of options. I actually had a TOKON video back in the day when TOKON was announced for the roster size, and that's back when I thought the roster was gonna be like 36 or 30 or 32, right? And what time we live in now, because now we're limited to 20 characters, so now you really got to try to fit who do you think is going to be on here pretty tightly. So if we go ahead and try to look for my TOKON folder, you have to kind of play it safe a little bit with the Avengers, but you can also get kind of weird with it. So I think, me personally, just because of the statue that was in the New York City stage, he was already there, so it make sense if he'd come back. I just think it makes sense, right? I don't see a world where that statue was in the New York City stage and he's not a playable character in this game. So let's go ahead and add Thor there. It's the Avengers, more so than not, you're always gonna want Thor in there, just because he's like Mr. Avenger alongside Cap, Iron Man, right? So I do think Thor is gonna make it on this team. It makes sense, right? They're dealing with elders of the universe, right? If anybody's gonna know what's going on with this sort of stuff, it's gonna be Thor, right? Thor's gonna have at least some kind of like connotation with that. He's gonna know certain things, or like maybe even how to not stop him, but like figure out what they can do against this big threat. So I think Thor definitely make it on the team. I feel like that's like a no-brainer. And I think with the Avengers team, more so than any other team, they're probably gonna be the safest in terms of like, oh yeah, that makes sense that they're there, right? And so I think another character that's gonna make it, that you kind of need to have in every sort of Marvel fighting game, is a Hulk, right? You need a Hulk. That's like a no-brainer, right? Everybody assumes Hulk's gonna be in there. But if you remember the Savage Land stage, Hulk is sort of like chilling, right? He's like out of New York, he's in the Savage Lands, and he's just kind of avoiding everything. He's in his cave making his little algorithms as Banner, but then as Hulk, he's having fun with all the dinosaurs. So then that leaves a spot for a Hulk to exist in the universe. Now, who would they get? Who is another Hulk-ish character that would be great for the game and that would do well with a lot of audiences, right? Especially in an anime form. And you know, Arxis, they love their women. So I think, and with my whole chest, I do think She-Hulk makes it into the game as this game's Hulk representative. I genuinely do think that's the case. It's just like they could do a lot of cool things, right? They could make her even have an install where she gets angry and she becomes the more buff She-Hulk like she has in recent games, especially in Cosmic Invasion, right? We saw a version of She-Hulk where she was just absolutely beefed up beefcake, super crazy, super hot. People love that. I think that would be a perfect fit for a game like this, especially for TOKON. And with how Arxis likes to treat characters, I think that they could do a phenomenal job with this. Marvel 3 already had like the blueprint of how well this could go for characters, so I think that this is a no-brainer. I'm pretty solid about this. I'm pretty solid about this being our new Avengers lineup, where it's Captain America being the leader, of course, Iron Man, Thor, and She-Hulk. There's a debate. Maybe Wasp makes it in over She-Hulk or Thor, and maybe they even do something crazy where it's like Avengers also mixed with mutants in a way. But I'm not too sure on that just yet. But I wouldn't be shocked. That's the thing that I'll admit. I would not be shocked if there is a universe out there where we get like an Avengers and sort of like X-Men thing, right? So it's like maybe Cap, Iron Man, Scarlet Witch, and Wasp from like Earth's Mightiest Heroes, something like that, or the comics, right? I remember in the Marvel Zombies run, Scarlet Witch was hanging out with the Avengers back in the day, and like that was like a whole thing of in itself, right? All right, so that is the Avengers team sort of locked and loaded, and that's what I think for the Avengers team. So now you get into the interesting part, man. What team do you give Doctor Doom? What are like the big bads of the Marvel universe that you're like, yeah, Doom's getting all the big hitters out of here? And I think there's a pretty obvious one that everybody would love to see. Nobody's gonna debate you on it. Everybody wants it, including me, even though I think there might be other better options. Dude, even lined up like this, he looks like he belongs there, man. I don't see a world in which Magneto doesn't make it onto the main roster, man. He's too cool. I don't even think I need like a reason, right? I don't need a reason. These two together, like bro, like do you need me to explain it? That's just, there's no way the GOAT Swagneto doesn't make it in. I don't see a way. And if we're thinking about big bads, villains that make an impact on the Marvel universe in some way or another, I think if Thor is gonna be around, it's time, man. It's time that Loki makes it into a fighting game. How Loki has slipped by along with a couple of other characters is astounding to me. And him being in Rivals sort of like cements the fact that I'm like, yeah, I could see Loki being a really cool like trap character or like a fake out character similar to, well, in my head immediately I think about like Faust and how he has his like scarecrows can like act as like little like decoys and whatnot, or even Happy Chaos where his clones act like shielding for him, right? The God of Mischief showing up in a fighting game just feels right, man. It just feels like it belongs. And especially with how the story is going, right, with the elders of the universe and whatnot, you kind of have to start getting into like the philosophical when it comes to the Marvel universe because of all this stuff that's happening. And if you're dealing with your entire universe or your world having to bring all of its strongest champions together to fight, whether it's for the universe's sake or if it's just sort of like maybe they get something out of it, you know, Doom is always coming up with some kind of scheme. And if a scheme is happening, you can bet your sweet ass Loki is gonna be right there to try to take advantage of the moment or just to mess with his brother. Like that's all he needs to do in order to fulfill himself, right? So now that leaves us with the last slot for Doctor Doom's team. Now, who the hell am I putting on here? Because honestly, not even I know. Because I was gonna put Ultron on here. But I think we can do a little bit better because I don't want to repeat, because obviously Ultron was an MVCI. So I think when I say this with my whole chest, I'm gonna be a little biased, right? If we're talking about super smart minds, if we're thinking about super masterminds, right? I call this the Herald of Doom. Doom would only bring the smartest people along with him. And if we're talking about smart in the Marvel universe, there's quite a few options you can get. But I mean, come on, it's been so long without him in a fighting game. We were close in one game in Marvel 3, but we didn't get him. You go with Dr. Octopus, man. You bring in Doc Ock. Listen, Spider-Man, you have all these spider people in the game. The interactions between him and Peter, talking about like maybe even referencing Superior Spider-Man. Maybe in this universe, Superior Spider-Man already happened, or he makes little subtle jokes that like, oh, if my mind was in yours, I could do so much different. That kind of mindset and that kind of interaction with how they're like sort of handling this game would go insane, man. That would be one of the coolest things that they could do, and I cannot wait if we get lucky enough in base roster for Doc Octopus to get added. That leaves us with the Midnight Suns, right? That leaves us with a team where we know nobody again, right? Because Doom and Ghost Rider are the teams where we know absolutely nobody on this roster. And this is where I can get a little fun with it. Yeah, Moon Knight, Daredevil, Blade, a lot of people are thinking those are the three. And to some extent, I do agree. But, you know, there's gonna be some kind of leeway with things. So let's get a little weird with it, right? All right, so my first character on the Rider team already I'm gonna get weird with it. I'm not holding back. This character is so cool, right? And I hope she gets more recognition in future games. And I think that Rivals might even add her in too at some point. But if you don't know who she is, I think Midnight Suns definitely needs some kind of magic character. And if you're talking magic, if you're not gonna put in Doctor Strange, Nico Minoru is your second best bet, man. I think that her and the other Runaways are such cool characters that I grew up reading as a kid. I remember back in elementary school, I'd read the Runaways comics and I saw Nico for the first time and I was like, that's cool. That's pretty sick. So the cool thing about her is that I've explained this to a couple of my friends who don't know who she is. So Nico essentially is a magic user, but her gimmick is that she can use any spell that she learns with the mindset that she cannot use that spell again in the same language, right? So if you say Alakazam, right, and Alakazam does something in English, she can only use that once. She has to, next time she wants to use it, she has to say it in like Spanish. It says it in Spanish, you gotta use it in French. If she uses it in French, she has to say it in Japanese, you know, all that stuff, right? Like she has to go down a list of languages to use a spell if she wants to, right? So she's been learning different languages, different ways to say spells so that she's able to reuse any spell that she learns, right? And I think in a fighting game that could translate pretty well, right? We already have Asuka in Guilty Gear Strive that sort of has a mechanic like this where he can pull out certain spells from a book, but he's limited on what he can pull out until he like refreshes a certain meter, right? I think you could have something very similar with Nico Minoru. She has like almost like Phoenix Wright mechanic, right? You have to find the spell. If you find the spell, you can say it. She has to re-find a new way to say it. She like has to, you know, get a certain item to be able to say it again, and then so on and so forth, right? I think a magic user like that on the Midnight Suns team would be so sick. I think it would be so cool, and I think a lot of people would agree with me when I say that Nico Minoru definitely deserves a spot in this game, especially if we're trying to like bring in the newer, younger generation, right? But come on now, it's the Midnight Suns. There's clearly a lack of a person on here. That's my GOAT, bro. My absolute GOAT, the Vampire Hunter, the Daywalker is, I believe, what they call him. It's astounding. It's astounding that it's taken this long for Blade to show up in a fighting game, man. People have been wanting him for years. I believe even since the Marvel 2 time. When Marvel 2 was coming out, people wanted Blade, especially when Marvel 3 was coming out. They wanted Blade. And with how popular he's been getting in recent times, especially with like the MCU movie, which unfortunately has not come out yet. I don't know what's happening with that, man. I'll be real with you. If you ask people who they want in this game, and you saw that the Midnight Suns were in this in this incarnation of a Marvel fighter, Blade is like everybody's first choice for getting into this game, because you're like, man, if you have a Midnight Sun, you have a new Marvel fighting game, you're crazy if you don't think Blade's gonna get in, man. I genuinely think so. Then it gets into the case of well, who the hell am I gonna put as the last character in the Midnight Suns, right? There's a couple of options that I could choose from and that would make sense to a lot of people, but I'm gonna be, once again, it's my list. I get to be a little biased, and I think that's okay, right? I think y'all can't yell at me for being a little biased on this choice that I'm gonna make right now. I think it is going to be a symbiote, right? I definitely think it is gonna be a symbiote I think some kind of symbiote's gonna make it into the Midnight Suns, but I don't think it's Venom. Exactly Venom. I don't think it's Eddie Brock, I should say. I don't think it's gonna be Eddie Brock in the Midnight Suns. If we're going on the pretense that we're not repeating characters, but we're still keeping the symbiote around and it's not gonna be Carnage and it's still Venom, I think there is a huge argument to be made. If we're getting a symbiote, we're getting Agent Venom. I am of the big belief that we're getting a symbiote in Marvel TOKON, but it's not gonna be Venom. Like something happened with Eddie. He's maybe hurt, something happened to him or whatnot, because we've already heard that T'Challa right now, currently in Marvel TOKON lore, is currently injured, or he might be injured, right? Because of something that Dr. Doom did. So what if it's like the same thing, right? Maybe like him and Carnage had like interaction and the symbiote left Eddie. Or maybe Eddie currently right now in that universe is going through the anti-Venom storyline, right? So he lost the symbiote, but then somebody else has it right now, right? Like somebody else has the symbiote, and that's why the government got their hands on it, and that's why Agent Venom is here. But I could definitely see a universe where if you want like a huge gun character, but the symbiote is still involved, you definitely pick Agent Venom over everybody, right? Or they, because Venom has been a Midnight Sun too, so it could just be base Eddie Brock Venom. But I think if you want to get a little unique with it, especially with the Arxis style of things, I think they would have a lot of fun either doing Carnage or doing Agent Venom. But I think stylistically they probably would be safer with Agent Venom. But I know an Arc System Works Carnage design would go crazy, brother. I'd suck somebody off so hard for that. But this seemingly, right, is what I'm thinking for Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls roster. You have the new Avengers with Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, She-Hulk. It just feels right, you know what I mean? Like, it makes sense once you read it out loud. They were just, it could realistically be anybody we've seen from the MCU or any Avenger, right? Like, I don't think they're gonna get too weird with who's on the Avenger roster. I think that's like the most safest thing you can bet on. Doom and Doom and Ghost Rider teams are like where you start to get a little weird. Argument can be made that everybody knows that Ghost Rider leads the Midnight Suns, but maybe that's like the fake out, right? Maybe that's what everybody wants you to think. But then you have Heralds of Doom, you have Doctor Doom, Magneto, Loki, and Dr. Octopus, right? Some of the more brilliant minds of the Marvel universe, but also have like influence over their specific like niche, whether it's like Loki with like Asgard and like the 9 realms, Magneto with the X-Men, or Dr. Octopus just with like his genius mind and his knowledge of Spider-Man in New York and all that kind of stuff, or like other operations in New York and the world in general. And then of course, obviously we just went over it, the Midnight Suns, you led with Ghost Rider, Nico Minoru, Blade, and Agent Venom. I think this list is pretty solid. It includes some of what I think is gonna be on there versus what I assume is gonna be on there, right? Like if I had the choice, I wouldn't put Thor on the Avengers, and I wouldn't put, if it was like people that I thought for sure are gonna be, or whatchamacallit, are gonna be here, I wouldn't put Thor, and I wouldn't put like Nico and stuff like that, right? Like these are some characters that I want, but also at the same time like kind of safe ones. Because if we're being real here, Magneto's making it somehow, man. I don't care who you are, who you think. Magneto is making it into Marvel Tokon one way or another, and you're just gonna have to accept that, man. I know we already have 4 X-Men, but you're crazy if you don't think we're getting at least 5 or 6 mutants in this game. So take that as you will. This is my list. I would love to know y'all guys' list down below in the comments, so please be sure to let me know in the comments down below, as well as like this video and share this video around. But yeah, this is Zeno, your resident time god, signing off.